You've told it's the pollen which is coming off the trees, which makes it extraordinarily difficult for everybody that's broadcasting here today. But Kate, thank you very much indeed. We focused very much on London, but as I've said all the way through the day, there are commemorations ongoing right across the British Isles, including in the Channel Islands, which we should remember were the only part of the British Isles that were occupied by Nazi Germany through the war. So let's focus on that for a second, because joining me is Philip Pope, whose great-uncle George Pope was the last liberated Brit on Alderney in 1945. Philip, it's very good to see you. We go a long way back, actually. We were colleagues a long time ago on a newspaper, and now you live out there in Australia. But your story really did pique my interest, because you've done a lot of work since we were last together on your great-uncle's history. What did you find out about him?
Well, Christian, it's great thank you very much for having me. It's close to midnight here in Australia, but fantastic coverage as always from yourself. And my great-uncle George is an incredible story. In fact, fact is stranger than fiction here. He had some children in the 30s in Bedford. He decided that Europe wasn't the place to be. He purchased a lifeboat and sailed, he told the family, to New Zealand and got as far as the Channel Islands via a little stop at Cherbourg. And at the moment he arrived there, the Nazis invaded the Channel Islands, and he and his family, which grew, he had 4 children during the war, essentially got stuck in Alderney. And he had no other option but to stay in Alderney. So he lived behind enemy lines, if you like, from 39 to 45. And I know your celebrations in London are from the 8th to the 12th, but Alderney was liberated. The liberating force came and liberated the 16 Britons on Alderney, many of whom were popes, George, my great aunt Daphne, and 4 children, on the 16th of May, 1945. Sadly, 3-year-old Anthony Pope, my first cousin, once removed, he didn't make it. He succumbed to dysentery. There were, as you know, many prisoner of war camps there, 2 concentration camps. There was an outbreak of dysentery. The Nazis refused to give my great uncle the medicine to save Anthony, and Anthony perished and was buried in British soil with an SS officer lowering his little body into the ground while giving a Nazi salute. So terrible conditions for the prisoners of war. And those in the concentration camps. Still debate to this day how many perished on Alderney. Many, including my great uncle, believed that ran into the thousands. He gave information to military intelligence after the war. Some historical debate. There's a book coming out, Christian, which I'm sure your viewers will like to look at, from an Oxford-educated historian, Marcus Roberts, coming out later this year, A Very British Holocaust, where he's spent many years researching this astonishing piece of history, and my great uncle. It's fascinating. He spent the last part of the war creating a cache of intelligence. He managed to get smuggled back to London via 2 escaped Guernsey fishermen to tell the British authorities what fortifications were on Alderney and what they could expect if they tried to liberate. And of course, on the 16th of May, he and his family, 4 children, were liberated. And he told the media about the atrocities, and those stories, the cuttings, were published as far as Australia. And then Brigadier French, who'd previously been Judge French in Alderney, encouraged him to leave. The narrative, Christian, for the British state, Churchill didn't want a huge amount spoken about what had happened in Alderney, and so Pope was encouraged to disappear back to England quietly and not speak about this again. And to this day, really, the great story hasn't been told. I mean, to the extent, Christian, some of your viewers will have watched the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare film, Guy Ritchie's film last year, with the commandos. Their next commando raids were to the Casquette Lighthouse and Barrow Island in Alderney. And it's believed that my great uncle supplied some of the intelligence for those very successful raids. Gus March Phillips is in charge of those raids. Ian Fleming, yeah. Most people think he was the Bond character. So it's incredible,
yeah,
really.
It is. And as you say, the 8th, very much a bittersweet moment for Alderney, because it didn't come Freedom Day, really, in Alderney until May 16th. Philip Pope, we are a little pressed for time, but thank you very much indeed. A really important part of our history, the history in the Channel Islands. And as Philip says, there's plenty of research that's currently being done now on the life that many of those in the Channel Islands had to endure under Nazi occupation.